YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to another Identity 5 video. In this one, we are going over the Golden Apple predictions for the COA VI tournament. Now, a lot of you guys asked, Eli, which team should we vote for? How are the brackets going to look? Where should I bet my apples on? And right now, I'm going to show you guys the best, the best way to go about this. Of course, this is completely statistic based. And also based off how these teams play, region, stuff like that, but mostly based off statistics. And I'm going to give you guys the best possible rundown. Of course, there's also the Japanese and Chinese casters predictions as well, but I'm going to give you guys my best predictions here. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So to get as many apples, make sure you maximize the amount of apples as possible. Make sure you subscribe to 12 events. As you can see, I did some here. Make sure you're subscribed to at least 12 events so you can get 12 free 100 sets of apples. And there. And then I think you can, I'm not actually sure if you can get more, but I don't know why they have like all these that you can subscribe to. And then, anyways, doesn't matter. Okay. So now we're going to look at the best possible prediction. So you guys, obviously, you need to be able to predict what each bracket's going to look at. So in Group A, we have B4U, RC, GG, FPX, EQ, and GW. Group B, we have 02, RD, OM, FL, AXZ, Axwave. In Group C, we have Scars, ACT, Weibo, Dou, and Reborn. And in Group D, we have GH, MS, Zeta, Wolves, and GR. So looking into Group A here, okay, so we have, in this one, we have 3 mainland China IVL teams, 1 IJL Japanese team in RC, and then one of the NAU teams in B4U. So, how this is most likely going to play out here, the number 1 team from this bracket, this is a little bit interesting. RC, GG, and FPX-ZQ are all fairly even, so this bracket's actually a little bit difficult to predict. GW and B4U a little bit lower. So I'm not really sure exactly the best way to go about this. GG and FPX-ZQ are very close in who's going to be, in my opinion, who's very close in who's going to be the best. But I think GG probably will fill in as that number 1 spot. And then second will be FPX-ZQ most likely. And then RC will probably be in at third. But RC is still quite strong. There's definitely a chance they could get second or third, one of those 2 spots. They could also even potentially win. Again, Group A, this bracket this is the hardest one to predict. The other ones will be a lot more straightforward. But given the fact that GG and FPX-ZQ have seen this stage, they have more success in IVL mainland China than RC has in IJL, though RC did have some pretty impressive runs in IJL. The biggest problem with RC is that their survivors are not entirely consistent. They have a lot of unique strategies, and RC is actually my favorite Japanese team because they have very unique strategies. But the biggest problem is that the survivors just play inconsistent. They're not always... sometimes they have very good performances, and sometimes they have off days. The Hunter for RC, Aka, very, very strong. I think he'll definitely put up a good show. However, the RC survivors are a lot less consistent than both FPX-ZQ and GG survivors. So I think that gives GG and FPX-ZQ a slight edge. As for 4th and 5th place, GW and B4U, statistically speaking, GW, I would love to be able to put B4U 4th here. However, unfortunately, statistically speaking, GW, being, of course, a mainland China IVL team, would have the advantage between B4U and GW. So that's going to put them Golden Wings at 4th and B4U at 5th. But again, anything's still possible for this bracket. GW could potentially move up. RC could potentially win. B4U might be able to sneak in there in the top 3. Anything's possible. This is a very, very close bracket overall. But this is probably the best way to go about Group A. As for Group B, this one is a little bit more straightforward. FL definitely will be the strongest going into this bracket. FL is an incredibly strong IJL Japan team. They're one of the probably the top 3 in Japan, maybe top 4, but I would say probably top 3, along with RC and Zeta Division. So that definitely gives them the best edge out of all these teams. This is sort of like there's no mainland China teams in this bracket, in this group. So FL definitely being one of the strongest Japan teams will have the top priority for first seed there. Second seed, this is interesting. It's a toss-up between AXZ and 02 ZT. I think ZT actually has a small advantage over AXZ. ZT, as we saw, again, they played very well in Southeast Asia qualifiers. However, recently they did get an addition of Meow Pai, who's one of the strongest hunters in the Southeast Southeast Asia region, on their team. And AXC has had while they may be an IJL team, a Japanese league team, they are one of the weaker ones. In fact, they've had some of the weakest performances throughout the most recent IJLs for the most part. I think the most previous season, if I'm not mistaken, they had only one. I think they started the season 1-9 or something. I don't know. They had they've had really bad starts. They're extremely inconsistent, very unstable team. Very strong, of course, being out of Japan, but unfortunately very unstable. And I think ZT is going to have a little bit more consistency than them. Even though they are a Southeast Asia region team, being ZT, I think they will have an advantage there. AXZ, in my opinion, and statistically speaking, just based off of how both of these teams play, I think AXZ falls in that third spot. Now, between RD and OM, this is a little bit closer, but I think RD definitely will have the advantage here. RD is a strong team, although they're not quite as... They've lost a lot of their players to the new rule that Nitty's put out, and that you can only have one player outside of your region play on your team. RD used to have a few players from other regions competing on their teams in the past, and now they only have one. But I still think RD is a strong team in general, and they will find themselves the fourth spot. And unfortunately, OM will find themselves in the fifth spot. I would love to see, again, an NAU team thrive in this event, but this is going to be a very difficult uphill battle for OM, and it's unfortunately very unlikely we will see them finish anywhere higher than this fifth seed spot. Now, moving into the next group, which is Group C, we will have, this is very, very, a little bit stronger in terms of a lot of mainland China teams here. In my opinion, Weibo, Dou, these are very close. ACT is also quite strong, and then Scars as well. Reborn, I think, probably the weakest out of all these teams. But I think Dou will probably find themselves in the first spot. Of course, Dongxuan is one of the strongest, arguably the strongest hunter in the entire world. The Dou survivors have been quite inconsistent, but Dongxuan, incredibly strong hunter, and has carried this team many, many times, and I think will continue to do so in this Call of Abyss event. I think Weibo will probably find themselves in second place here. Weibo is, as you guys know, has a lot of very strong survivors. They're known for their survivors team. Long, Iron, and who else? I'm not thinking. I'm having a total brain fart right now. But they have a very strong survivor team. And then, of course, YMM on the hunter side is also quite strong. He is unfortunately very inconsistent. The survivors of Weibo are a lot more consistent than the hunter side, but they still are a very strong team. And I think they'll probably find themselves just behind Dou in that second spot. Falling into third, in my opinion, actually will be ACT. ACT, again, another mainland China team. ACT is quite strong. Yue, the hunter for ACT, is one of the strongest Dreamwitch players, although Dreamwitch has become a little bit less common in IVL. In COA qualifier, actually not IVL, and just COA qualifier. So I'm not sure if we'll actually see it as much, but I think ACT will find themselves in that third spot. Scars versus ACT, I think, is very close on paper, but I think Scars will find themselves in the fourth spot. And Reborn, unfortunately, is always been one of the weaker IVL teams. I don't think they have much of a chance in this group. They could, of course, surprise us. Again, they are a mainland China team, have a lot of strong players on that team, but I think they're going to find themselves just behind Scars, as that is in that Scars is one of the stronger teams out of Japan as well, up there with FL, Zeta Division, and RC. So I think they're going to find themselves above Reborn in this group. Now, looking into the final group, which is Group D, I think that 100%, maybe like 95%, Wolves will find themselves in first. Zeta Division will give them a run for their money, but I think Wolves will find themselves in the first spot. Wolves, as we know, for the last few seasons has been the strongest team in China, the strongest team in the world. They won the last COA event. They have arguably the strongest survivor team in the world. Their hunter Alex is incredibly consistent, incredibly strong. Wolves is very, very good. Now, I would love to see Zeta Division come out, really just outplay Wolves and potentially take the first seed. That would be very refreshing to see a Japanese team sort of take over in this world competition. But at the end of the day, Wolves is just too strong. And there's a good chance Wolves will find themselves in the first seed over Zeta Division. Of course, Zeta will be second, and that Zeta has the best late round hunter in the game in Alf. Alf is the, if not, I would say he's not necessarily the strongest in the world overall, but he's the strongest late round hunter, rounds 2 and 3. When it comes to rounds 2 and 3 in the late rounds, Alpha is the best in the world for that sort of situation. On top of that, the Zeta survivors are very strong. Similar to Wolf survivors, they're very, very good. I think the only downside is that Wolves and Zeta survivors are both very good. But the problem, what makes the difference between Wolves being a little bit better is that Wolves Hunter can play consistently all 3 rounds, whereas Alpha is really around 2 and 3 Hunter. So that makes it a little bit difficult for Zeta in this sort of matchup. As for the 3, 4, and 5 spot, I think GR will definitely find themselves in the 3rd spot there. GR, of course, is very strong. They've always been good. They won, 3 Call of Abysses already? And they have fallen from grace over the last few years, but they're still one of the strong teams out of China, and should easily find themselves above GH and MS. But there's still a chance GH could definitely beat GR. It's a little unlikely, but it is possible. But statistically speaking, GH will find themselves in the 4th spot, and MS will find themselves in number 5. MS is, again, similar to RD, had a lot. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, they had a lot of Japanese players on their team in the past. With the new rule, they're forced to only use players out of Korea, so they unfortunately lost a lot of their teammates to that. And they're sort of been weakened by that for sure. So I think GH will definitely find themselves playing a lot more successfully, a lot stronger than MS, and will find themselves in that spot. So that's going to be the overall group stage prediction. So for Group A, we have GG in first, followed by FPXZQ, RCGW, and B4U. In Group B, we have FL, ZT, AXC, RD, and OM in that order. In Group C, we have Dou, Weibo, ACT, Scars, and Reborn. And in Group D, we have Wolves, Zeta Division, GR, GH, and MS. And yeah, that's going to be it for those predictions. Of course, we will have the next stage of playoff predictions in these on 420, and I will make a video for that as well. Of course, you can also refer to the caster predictions as well here. And if you want to look through those for any extra information. But those are my predictions based off of my time that I study in this game. I study all these teams. I know all their strategy. Well, I don't know all their strategies, but I study a lot of their strategies inside from out. I have no life, guys. I spend my entire life studying these teams, studying these strategies, and I think these are the best possible lineups for these groups. Again, Group A is very, it's kind of iffy. It's a very tough bracket to predict. But Group B, C, and D, I think this is the most logical for all of these. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys found this video helpful. If you guys liked the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Your guys' support means a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.